If you're old and want a backflip and have been scared, good work, for the fear has kept you alive, but it didn't get you a backflip either. Physically, backflip is pretty easy, but mentally scary until you develop the confidence. Physically, here's the conditioning you need to do. The older you are, the more important the conditioning is. Calve conditioning. If you want to do great flips, injury-free, you need to start training calves. Calves are the first and last muscles to touch the ground when flipping, so they are the basis for your takeoffs and landings. This routine should be done weekly or before you flip. I do 100 calf raises once a week. In the beginning, you can split it into 5 sets or however many sets, but after a month of training or so, strive to complete it in 1 set. Just get it done. Then I do 30 to 60 raises on each leg after that. Alternatively, you can do raises for 2 minutes with both legs, then 1 minute each for each leg. You can change it up like that, but this should be your baseline. You need a lot of training volume for your calves. You can also jump rope for some calf training as well, timing yourself for 2 to 3 minutes and alternate legs. The consequence of not training calves are torn Achilles tendons. The older you are, the more likely this injury is. It's pretty much mandatory after the age of 30. You gotta do calf training. Next, you need to be the best at jumping. Here are some ways to condition. Box jumps, train your speed, give you a rough idea of the speed and acceleration you need to do backflip. You do get to practice the takeoff and kind of practice the landing. These should be pretty easy, no set number, just do enough for you to feel comfortable. If it's boring, move on, and after you learn backflip, you don't really ever need to do box jumps again. Bunny hops and one-legged hops are pretty basic jumping conditioning. They should be done weekly or every time before you flip. Squats are overall a very good idea for flips. If you can do 2 times your body weight, you're solid. Until then, various methods to train squats, typically high bar, ass to grass technique for jumping conditioning, 3 to 5 sets with rep ranges of 7-12. You can, if you're already powerlifting or bodybuilding, that's fine. I'm paranoid about messing up my knees, so I make the old people do controlled single leg squats, also called pistol squats. You have some options on doing this, but the ultimate goal are pistol squats. You can do partial range of motion on something elevated like a bench. You can do kickstand squats. These are good, but easy to cheat. So have your rear foot on its toes, so you put as little weight as possible on it. The rear foot is mainly for balance. You can also do single leg squats onto a chair and then go lower and lower until eventually you're doing a pistol. You have to figure out how to make it hard. Another good step before doing pistol squats is rolling into them. The momentum helps you get up, and as you get better, you slow it down and you can add a little jump at the end. Nordic Curls, pretty commonly trained by gymnasts, and now recently they're popular because of the knees over toe guys. A couple ways of training this. You could have someone hold your legs. That's how you do it in gymnastics. You can pin them against an object. I've seen it done in cars. YouTube it, you'll find it. And use your brain, figure out how to train Nordic Curls. This exercise is extremely difficult, so there is going to be a lot of cheating in the beginning. And you can vary range of motion, so restrict range of motion, no cheating, or you can cheat but do full range of motion. I use the rubber bands, and I do about 3 to 5 sets with maybe 3 to 5, maybe up to 9 repetitions. It's not really a whole lot because you struggle a lot with this one. Next, you're going to use your abs to do your rotation, so your ab strength has to be very strong. And if you use stall bars, or you can do this on a regular squat bar with the barbell, I show you how. This is essentially the technique for backflip as well. And this is very common for gymnasts. And a couple common mistakes that people make is breaking vertical. That's why the stall bars are very good, because you can't cheat. That's why it's hard. And that is why you want to use the barbell when you do this on the squat rack. And I do 3 sets of 10. Ideally, you want to eventually do them piked, so that's straight leg, not tucked. But piked is much harder, obviously. Why do we do so much conditioning? Injury prevention. You're old, you've been getting soft for years, sitting too much and not training hard, so we have to ease into flips. Also, when learning something new, you make more mistakes and your technique is not correct. Bad technique and weak muscles is a good way to get injured. So be strong enough to handle all those bad landings that you're gonna do when you're learning so you don't get injured. Once you have the technique and confidence to flip, you can ease off the conditioning and just do backflips for your conditioning. It's worth the extra month of training versus being injured, which can easily be more than a month. If you do all these exercises, you will be well conditioned and can focus on the backflip technique and getting over your fear, which you will. Just takes confidence, and you get that through training and repetition. Backflip technique. There are 3 parts to a perfect backflip. Jump for height, tuck for rotation, and open out of the tuck to land. The jump for a backflip, and also let me just say, backflip is what non-gymnasts tend to call it. In gymnastics, they call it a back tuck, but generally speaking, backflip and back tuck are the same thing. Anyways, the jump for a backflip is also called a set jump. How to do a set jump? You look forward, slight bend in the knees, bring your arms down, pretend you're grabbing 2 buckets by the handle with each hand, and throw them up in the air. The set jump is done when your hands are straight up with the biceps right by your ear. Do not arch. Look forward the whole time and don't excessively squat down. You will do a lot of set jumps before you flip in the beginning as part of your pre-flip ritual to gain a little confidence. Master set jumps and do lots of them every time you flip, at least 10 to 20. Next, practice the tuck on the ground. Let your knees go to your chest, then grab your shins. Common mistake when flipping is bringing your hands down while you're jumping. That will take away a little of your jump height. So practice ensuring you tuck your knees to your chest first, then grab your shins. You'll roll onto your upper back if you're doing it right. Practice a few until you get the technique, then do a few as fast as you can, because you want to practice how you want to flip, fast, not slow. If you have the setup, you can do a half rotation onto a mat. Jump and tuck violently. You should land with your back on the mat and roll just a little bit. This will get used to jumping and tucking and getting over the fear of flipping and getting upside down. If you still have that crippling fear jumping and getting upside down, which is totally normal, try just falling backwards. It's also known as a trust fall. It's a similar sensation to flipping, just a little bit, and you'll get used to it pretty quick. Just fall straight back, don't chicken out and bend. Do it until it's boring. On rings, you can do a slow motion backflip, just tuck really hard, flip over, and your hands are hold on to the ring, so usually that makes it not scary, and you should get used to that sensation of the flip. You can also do a very similar thing on an elevated platform. You roll backwards, roll into your feet. You're going to acclimate your body being upside down and rolling. If available, flipping with a harness is the best way to learn for adults. The spotter can give you extra height and slow down the flip for you as you work through it. Not all gyms have it though. The next progression would be flipping into the pit with a spotter. The spotter will help you rotate. They don't give you height, so you do have to jump. Once you get comfortable putting the flip together and somewhat landing it, and this varies, it can take anywhere from maybe 10 to 20 flips with the spotter before you can do it on your own. And you'll be flipping into the pit. Once your landings look decent, you'll flip onto a mat on the pit, and then the progressions just really vary depending upon what you have available. But essentially, you go from squishier mat to less squishy. And the squishy mats, it's really twofold. It makes you jump really hard. It forces you to have good technique because the squishiness saps your jump power. And it also is very forgiving on the landing. As you go harder surface, you'll get more height, which can be scary, but the landings are less tolerant of mistakes. So every mistake, you're gonna really feel it on a hard surface. Once you've done about 100 to 500 backflips, now it really varies on the person, but generally speaking, that's kind of what it takes to be really, really comfortable and get that muscle memory and have the confidence to be able to flip on a hard surface knowing you're not gonna mess up, because it does hurt if you mess up, depending upon how you land. So the training protocol is basically, most people will train this move once a week, and they'll do maybe 20 to 30 flips in a flip session. That's a little bit harder than it sounds. You're looking at 1 to 6 months to really get a good, solid, confident backflip if you're only doing 1 hour a week. So you probably want to bump it up to 2-3 hours a week, get your flip repetition to about 60 or 70 flips a week, which is amazing if you can do that, and you'll get the flip and you'll feel very comfortable very quickly. Once you have the flip, you don't really lose it. You don't have to do that much to maintain it, and it becomes easy and fun. And when it's easy and fun, then that's when you can start doing all the little funky variations and make it your own and show off. Common backflip problems. As a general rule, you can only fix one thing at a time when flipping. It happens too fast to think about more than one thing. The first common mistake is frog jumping. It's when your backflip covers more distance backwards than up. You should land in the same spot ideally when you flip. Jumping back in your flip gives you less height, which gives you less time to rotate. This can also make you rotate into the ground, creating a hard landing that doesn't feel good. Believe me, when it happens, you'll know it. The fix is to look forward until you rotate, forcing you to not turn your head back. This will make you jump straight up, maximizing your jump. So practice set jumps and look at something ahead of you, and don't stop looking at it until you rotate. A low arm swing is another common mistake. The arm swing helps with your jump height and is the cue for you to tuck. Fix your arm swing by actively thinking about swinging your arms up to your head when you flip. Duh, but that's not really helpful. So what you actually need to do is you need to practice your set jumps a lot. And when you do it, think about your arms and make sure they come straight up to your head, biceps by your ear. With repetition, you will get a feel for the extra height the arm swing creates, and you'll get a feel for when you're not swinging enough. And repetitions is going to be your friend. It's going to give you arm sense, and you'll develop that over time. And as you do more flip repetitions, the flip will slow down and you'll be more aware of what your body is doing. Lastly, last common mistake is an open tuck, which will slow your rotation, making you land into the ground hard, because you're usually rotating into the ground because your rotation is slow, and you probably don't have enough height either. If you can jump high enough, you actually don't need a tuck, but until then, you need a tight, fast tuck. Practice tucking on the ground, and when you do flip, grab your shins really tight and pull them into your chest. Once you can jump high enough, you don't need a tuck, but that is an advanced variation. Looking to the side when you flip is a sign that you are too scared and you need to go back to an easier drill that you are comfortable with and do more repetitions. This is pretty common in the beginning. You can try to fix it with a proper set jump, but it's pretty common to ignore all that technique when you're scared. So practice something more basic until it's boring. Okay, to wrap all this up, this video isn't the only way to learn a backflip, but it works and it gets results. I've done it. I've taught old people. I've taught young people. And I can still flip. I've been flipping for about 20 years now. There are other methods, but I like to use techniques in an environment that is tolerant of mistakes. So what I mean by that is fail safe. You can make a mistake and it's not going to send you to the hospital. It is common for people to land on their heads the first few times they try to flip. It doesn't happen often. I feel like I'm doing a bad job if a student lands on their head, but they usually do it in an environment where, well, not usually, always. They're always doing it in a place that you can land on your head, but you don't really want to test it out. So always use a spotter or a flip harness or a foam pit until you actually have the technique and you're confident that you're gonna do it right on the hard surface. It's more of a mental thing than a physical thing. When you don't have the right technique and you're on a hard surface, it hurts. Ankles, knees, back, and worst case scenario, head. And plenty of YouTube videos of people doing that. All these techniques, there are trade-offs that you have to consider when picking a technique. Spotter, you need someone that knows what they're doing. Harness, the gym has to have the equipment. Foam pit, the gym has to have a foam pit and it should be deep enough. It can be a problem at some gyms because adults are taller and the foam pits are made for kids. So as an example, one technique that I don't like to use is I generally omit teaching backflips on trampolines because the extra height from the trampoline lets people be sloppy and lazy with their technique. And transitioning from a trampoline to the ground is very hard because they're used to not working hard to get that height, and they're used to having a lot of extra time in the air, and all that goes away on the ground and they have a bad landing and they get scared, and then we regress and don't have to necessarily start from zero, but pretty close to it. On the other extreme, learning on sand can be very good because the landing is soft enough and the sand forces you to have perfect technique and a great jump. So when you really press into the sand, it absorbs some of your power, right? So you actually, your foot pushes into the sand. That is a good thing in the beginning because it really makes you work at it, and your technique has to be perfect. So when you go from sand to a hard surface, it's an easy transition, and yeah, sand is great training. Lastly, remember the answer to most of your problems is going to be practice. All right, keep training. Bye.